Hey everyone, welcome to my second live ever. We are going to talk about businesses that are now on the brink of bankruptcy. We're going to talk specifically about Big Lots and Mod Pizza, which have both released reports that they are struggling financially, with Mod Pizza saying last week that they were considering announcing bankruptcy this week. So we have a special guest in the house, Mr. OG, and we are going to invite him to the show. But before I do that, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Mr. OG, you are now on the stream. How are you?
Hey, good evening, Kelly. How are you doing today? I am most excellent.
I am doing great. Sorry that I was running behind, but from the last live to now, I needed to charge my phone and I got something to eat. So that is the reason for being late.
No apologies necessary. I think, like everyone else, I'm here for this great content that you provide.
So let's get into it. The title of this video is Brink of Bankruptcy, Big Lots and Mod Pizza Are Average Americans Out of Money? So I definitely want to talk about Americans and having discretionary spending for places like Mod Pizza, or I don't know in your area if you have like a Blaze Pizza. It's essentially the same concept. Um, and then we all know what Big Lots is. So Big Lots is, I would consider that a lower end store. If, as long as you stay out of the furniture section, I would consider that lower end. So they are struggling, and that's definitely not a good sign.
Would you agree with me that I think, yeah, not in relation to my pizza, because I think it is a Blaze pizza out here. But do you think Big Lots is one of them companies too big to fail? A lot of times when you hear these multi-store national level businesses, they are huge employees of that smaller or minimum wage American employee. So when they say their bankruptcy is more of a restructuring. So I was wondering, do you think we've seen the end or maybe a fast decline when it comes to Big Lots?
Can you restate that? I was not able to hear you. Your signal cut out.
Oh, I was saying Big Lots employs a lot of people. That's why they're not closing stores as fast as Kmart was closing when they were going out of business. So do you think Big Lots is too big to fail?
Do I think Big Lots is going to fail?
Or it's too big to fail? Some of these jobs that employ or these companies that employ tens of thousands of Americans. Usually, when they file bankruptcy, it's not to close a business, it's more of a restructuring strategy to pay debts back. So I'm more like, do you think Big Lots is, on the way to closing all the stores, or do you think they're filing bankruptcy as a last ditch attempt to restructure and maintain the stores that are successful?
Well, according to the report that came out last week, they closed 52 stores last year and they're going to close 35 to 40 stores. So to me, that would say they're first closing the stores that are the weakest, where they, have the least amount of profit. And they, in the report, it also stated that inflation is causing less customers to shop there. So they've already lost 114, it was 114.5 million in the first quarter of 2024 compared to last year. So it was saying that their net sales are either net sales or I'm not sure if it was net sales or net income. One of the two is down 10%. So I
Yes, I
think
believe
that
that. Oh, that was the quarterly reported earnings for the first quarter of 2004, as compared to the first quarter.
2024.
Yeah, as compared to the first quarter 2023.
Well, my question would be is does this mean that like are less people spending money at Big Lots? Are they going to other stores? Is it that they're spending less or they're just not shopping there? Like what's going on?
I was a big fan of Big Lots when I first started being an adult, and they had very affordable furniture and a layaway package. And they also had cheaper goods, I would say comparable to Walmart. And I think it's based on your community, but it's still several Big Lots open around the area that I am, even though I no longer frequent them stores because of need. I still see them having a steady stream of business. So I honestly don't know. I always thought they had a good brand and it was affordable. So I'm not. I'm shocked at the failure of the business.
Do you have anything going on in your background? If you do, could you shut it off? Like maybe there's a TV or something, but I kind of felt like I was hearing something in your background.
Okay, I just checked to make sure I had everything off.
Let's next talk about you don't same concept. You walk in, you build your own pizza for this price, and that's what they do. It's really simple. So, Mod Pizza announced at the end of last week that I forgot how many stores are going to close, but they're going to close a certain amount of stores. And they were saying that they were considering filing bankruptcy as early as, well, last week they were saying this week. So the week is about to start. So sometime this week they might announce that they're filing for bankruptcy. They have 500 locations in 28 states. They might be more heavily on the West Coast. I'm not sure. They have over 100 of those 500 locations in Texas, 70 in um, Washington, where they started. And I know that there's probably at least 20 in Phoenix because I looked it up in the Phoenix metro, all the suburbs. There was about at least 20 locations. The prices at Mod Pizza, they either have two or three sizes. They have a mini pizza, and I think there's only one other size. It costs a few dollars more. So basically, you walk in, you build your own pizza, and it's unlimited toppings. That's basically the draw for Mod Pizzas that you can build your own pizza. They put it in the oven, and it's ready in a couple minutes. So and I did notice the last time that I ate at Mod Pizza, probably about 3 weeks ago, that they changed the prices. They went up because I always get the mini pizza, and it went from 7.99 to 8.39, which is not really like the biggest deal. It's only 40 cents, but obviously for some people, 40 cents is going to matter. So, what do you think about what I just explained?
Well, the 40 cents sounds like about a 3% price increase, but if the business is failing, based on what you said about my pizza, I can see how certain customers could abuse the unlimited amount of toppings that you can apply to the pizza. So I'm curious as to why, if the because it seems like a very simple business model. We only have two sizes, either a personal size or a shareable size, and then unlimited customability. I just don't understand how, especially with the amount of pizza that Americans eat. I believe it's top two, if not top three, food staples in America. So it's shocking the effect inflation has had on the economy and the discretionary spending of the individual.
So I don't know who Mod Pizza's like customer base is. um I made a video about this, and someone said that where they live that the mod pizzas were only in very nice areas. Now I only know of two, like, in my immediate area, so they're kind of, I would say they're in nice places, but when I looked at Blaze Pizza across the Phoenix Metro, they were all over the place, so I know they're all not in nice neighborhoods. So I don't know if their clientele is, if they're targeting middle class people, or if they're targeting, um I don't think you have to be rich to eat there by any means. However, the pizza starts at 8, but I don't think the average person's getting a mini pizza. They're going to get the next size up. So I think that's running like probably 12 something. And then, the salads are also $8, I believe. I think the salads also come into, I think the salads and pizzas are the same. You can get a mini pizza for 8. We'll just call it a flat $8, and you can get a small salad, but it's actually not small, but I guess it just depends on how much food someone could eat. So I would think for a woman, the average woman, to probably get, they probably might get a mini or the next size up. The salads are also the same exact price. They have a small salad, and then they have a large salad, and then the sodas are however much they cost. So to dine for one person at Mod Pizza at the cheapest, you're looking at $8 for the pizza, $8 for the salad, and then probably $3 to $4 for the soda. So it's going to cost you $20 to eat there if you get a salad, and probably $12 to eat there if you just get a pizza and a drink. So do you think that that is an affordable price for the average consumer, or do you think that the price is too high?
Well, if you look at the price of a meal at other established fast food chains, I think a Big Mac combo meal will cost you 11.90 before tax, and I get the chili dog at Dairy Queen. That combo meal will cost you $11 before tax. So it seems right there comparable with the national average.
Good point. I actually stopped at a McDonald's, and I did see on the menu that the Big Mac combo was 11.99. And I would say, I don't know if it was just that location, because I have recently seen McDonald's locations where the combo was still like 8.99. So I don't know. I don't really order those, but within the last 6 months, I've definitely seen I've seen McDonald's locations where the Big Mac combo was 8.99. I have seen that, but I don't know if they all have increased their prices, or if each location can set their own price.
Something that might fascinate you. I know a couple of small restaurant owners, and they were saying the reason why McDonald's is able to operate at the cost they do is because of where they source their main ingredients from. And what he was saying, the Subway owners like, hey, uh, cheese has went up for me. Bags of lettuce have been went up for me. With certain things that are going up that we won't notice or maybe encounter with some of these big box brands like a McDonald's or a Burger King, but somebody like My Pizza, which sounds to me like it's a franchise controlled and operated store. I could see how, with the inflation that America is currently going through, how the price of sourcing some of their ingredients from the pizza might have increased to where it's hard for them to remain profitable.
That's a good point. So, with in the case of like Mod Pizza, when the cost of sourcing the ingredients costs them more, they're going to pass the cost off to the customer, but the customer's going to notice. Now, some people are going to notice, and I mean, it doesn't mean that they're not going to pay for it, but the customer's going to notice. Because I only went there, I don't know when they raised their prices, because I don't go there like that often, but I have been there a few times this year. So let's say I didn't go there for a couple months. So that couple months I didn't go there, the price went up. So I definitely understand that the cost of the ingredients goes up, but at some point, depending on what type of depending on the restaurant, the prices won't make sense to the consumer, and the consumer might feel that the price for the food that the advertised price doesn't make sense or it's not worth it. So then you stop eating there.
I've actually seen smaller restaurants around here just remove prices off the menu entirely in order to allow them to fluctuate and adjust the price as the market and the cost of goods go up. So I think my pizza, even though they seem to be incredibly large, they also seem to be incredibly niche and maybe more West Coast focused because competition only increases as you spread your stores out across the nation.
So what do you think it means if, like, I on the articles I read about Mod Pizza was saying that they were getting less traffic um because of, I don't know if it was because they raised their prices, but they were just saying they're getting less foot traffic. So less people are spending money there anyways. And like you pointed out, the cost of a pizza and a drink is similar to the cost of a Big Mac value meal, but I would think that I would say that most people I know bitch and complain about the cost of fast food now. People are not actually happy with the prices at fast food restaurants.
I think the American average consumer has taken the biggest hit when it comes to readily available food. And I think that might be something else that's taken away from my pizza because if a Big Mac is $12 and a my pizza meal is $12, but it's going to take me 20 minutes to get the pizza as opposed to 7 minutes to get the Big Mac. I think a lot more people are just going to opt for the Big Mac rather than rating on a Pacific slice of pizza.
So you're saying that are you suggesting that Americans are lazy, so they don't want to get out of their car, get a freshly made pizza made to their liking? They would rather go sit in a line at McDonald's to get a Big Mac and old fries?
I think that was a little harsh characterization of what I was saying. I was more of saying I think with the state of the economy in America right now, most Americans are having to make a lot of hard choices, and one of the hard choices is quality over convenience. I think in my perspective, because it's every pizza is made to order, my pizza is gonna have the more quality product. It's just not as convenient as needed for this rapidly inflated American market.
I was only kidding. I was only kidding. Um for me though, whether I have money or not, I refuse to pay 11.99. If I wanted a Big Mac combo, um being in Arizona, we have a lot of options that actually taste better and are cheaper, like In-N-Out Burger. In-N-Out Burger's number 1 in the West Coast. So there's like, and there's plenty of locations. So there's no need to have to go to McDonald's. I mean, we have all the main companies. We have McDonald's, Burger King, Jack in a Box, Whataburger, Carl's Jr., and we have In-N-Out, Smash Burger, all those kind of places. So like I would rather go to Culver's or go to In-N-Out than go to McDonald's. I can get a combo at In-N-Out for $8. So why would I pay $12 for, actually it's going to be $13. Why would I pay $13 at McDonald's when I could go to In-N-Out and get a fresh burger, like really really fresh, and really really good fries? I'd rather go to In-N-Out than go to McDonald's.
Well, I'm looking forward to one day trying some In and Out, even though I've heard mixed bag of reviews on it. But I think, you're an exceptional person. And I think that's the difference. I think when it comes to food, for a lot of people, myself included, it's always quality, or for the most part, it's quality over convenience. But I think something to point out is when you hear about store closing and bankruptcies, who you don't hear going through that is McDonald's, is Burger King, is Dairy Queen. Even though they close, it's never a national release because they're always building somewhere else. So I think the market, especially advertising dollars, is more focused on these big box brands. And that's why small companies like modpizza and a few others that I truly enjoy are starting to become, part of America's history.
Where do you see in America, where, like, let's say 20, 30 years from now, where do you think a company like McDonald's and Burger King, do you think they will still be as powerful as they are right now? Or do you think that other companies will come along and maybe not overtake them, but take away a part of their market?
Well, I don't know if you've seen the McDonald's movie about its origin and what its founder ended up ultimately doing. I think 30 to 100 years from now, there will always be a McDonald's because they're a real estate company. If you look at McDonald's locations, it's always the best location, and that's why their stores never close because McDonald's focus was investing in the land that the store sits on and then encouraging businesses to build up around that central point. So I think that's why McDonald's is always able to persevere, and because they do a lot of their own sourcing of ingredients for their burgers, they just have a stranglehold on the market. And I think that's what makes it hard for some of these fledgling companies to not only stay open, but to just succeed in a space that's dominated so heavily by such a long lasting American brand.
So at what cost or what price will it take? So do you, okay, so in your opinion, for an average American, not rich Americans, not upper middle class Americans, let's just say, I'm not even sure if I like the term middle class anymore because I feel like the definition of what we thought was middle class and what probably is middle class right now is not even the same. But do you think that, let's say people who make like less than 50,000, let's just say 50,000 and under, do you think that the average people that make 50,000 and under are going to pay 11.99 for Big Mac combos?
I mean, it has been proven time and time again that McDonald's is genius at setting their price point. I want to say about 80% of the country makes less than $50,000 a year. So again, it becomes about location and convenience. And ironic as it might sound, or cliched it might sound, I think McDonald's could charge $20 for them burgers, and people will still buy because it's so ingrained in the American zeitgeist and system of economics that if you need something quick and fast to eat, it's get a burger and not a pizza, and I think McDonald's just has a stranglehold on the burger market.
So I know that you are in the state of Georgia. So I'm assuming you have most of the chains that are out west. So, like, when you personally are in the mood for a burger and you're not gonna, go to a restaurant, like, where do you dine? Like, I don't know, do you go to McDonald's? Do you go to Wendy's, Burger King? I don't know if you have Jack in a Box. Like, what are your go tos?
Well, we had a Jack in the Box at one point, but those slowly kind of pushed more west. I guess they wasn't able to get a foothold here. You might have rallies. You know, we have checkers out here. I think there are rallies on the West Coast. So I think it depends on what kind of burger I want. Like when I just want a no nonsense burger, 8 out of 10 times I'm going to McDonald's. Now, if I want a little veggie on my burger, I'm going to Wendy's. You know, if I want some good onion rings with my burger, then I head to Burger King. So I do frequent a lot of these brands, but I've actually like when I get McDonald's, it's solely for convenience. It's not for quality. It's not for the price point. It's just something I can get quick, fast, in a hurry, and I know what to expect. So I definitely, if I'm not going to a restaurant, it's usually McDonald's is my number one choice.
Wow. And so Jack in the Box is huge in Arizona. I would say that I mean definitely McDonald's is number one, but Jack in the Box has a large presence. I mean, of course, Wendy's, Burger King, we have Carl's Jr., which might be called Hardee's where you're located. I'm not sure. We have that one. We have
Yes.
Water we have Whataburger. Um um, I don't know. I don't really mess with McDonald's like how I was before their prices got out of control. Like we'll say maybe like before the pandemic, I would frequent McDonald's more often, but it was a lot cheaper. They had a dollar menu. So when you're just like, let's say you're traveling, you're starving. Okay, I could go to McDonald's. I can get me a fry for a dollar. I could get a large soda any size for a dollar. I get a cheeseburger for a dollar. So you could spend like $3 and eat at McDonald's. Um, but now it's not even those prices don't even exist anymore. A fry
At
is like
all.
like if you were to buy a fry without using the McDonald's app, you're an idiot. Like you have to have the McDonald's app now. Like
Listen, that McDouble, that dollar McDouble is $3.99 now.
oh, you're saying there was a burger called the McDouble?
Yes, and the difference between a McDouble and a double cheeseburger was literally one slice of cheese. They've done away with the McDouble. You can only get the double cheeseburger at $3.99. So I think it was interesting. Like you said, my pizza went up 40 cents from $7.99 to $8.39.
But
While the
I
McDouble
w-
has
I
oh,
want
go
to
ahead.
emphasize that that's if you just get the mini pizza. Now I didn't pay attention to now the mini. I believe the average person is getting the other pizza. The mini pizza is probably for like kids or people that are not that hungry. So I would assume that most people are getting the other pizza. I just get the mini one. But there's another size. There's mini and then I don't know what the other one is called 'cause I never ordered it before. Um so it's 7.99 if you're a kid or you're not that hungry. But you're probably not going to order the mini pizza. You're going to order the other one, which is probably like 13, 12, or $13. So you have to consider that you're probably not going to order the mini. You probably wouldn't be full off of a mini, but I'm okay with the mini.
I'm okay. Have you ever heard of California Pizza Kitchen? I think that's the name of it. I was getting some pizzas there from the mall, and I always got the mini pizza. Like when you say mini, what I hear is personal pan pizza. Cause Papa John's and Domino's out this way, they both got carry out specials, which gives you a medium. I think a medium is a 16-inch pizza, so you can get a medium 16-inch pizza one topping for $6.99. So like I agree 100% with you that people probably get the bigger pizza, but a medium pizza, I mean, that's a lot of bread and cheese for one person to eat by themselves. But I can see how fast food chains, again, like Domino's and Papa John's, because they source their own ingredients, they're able to keep their point Literally, a Papa John's one topping pizza is the same as a mini pizza at my pizza, and that might be the reason why they lost the pizza war.
So, like, I wouldn't necessarily, okay, honestly, when I'm thinking about, like, in general, I wouldn't consider Mod Pizza or Blaze Pizza to be expensive. I would consider those kind of places more for like singles. Okay, when I'm thinking about it, taking away people that are like rich or upper middle class, like if you're a person and you have a family, I don't think the typical family would want to, okay, I don't think a typical family is going to go to Mod Pizza to, have a family dinner because it would cost too much. Like, if a family of 5 goes to Mod Pizza, you get 2 minis, you get, let's say you get 3 mini pizzas, you get 2 of the other pizzas, you get 5 drinks, a couple salads. That might set you back almost $100 where you could just go to Domino's and do and get the 2 pizzas for, I think it's 6.99.
Yes.
So it doesn't make any, I just don't think it would make financial sense for typical families. They would just order 2 pizzas from Domino's and probably, I mean, don't buy the salads, order a couple pizzas, go pick it up themselves. Like, I think that would be the typical American. Like, if we were being honest, I would think like Mod Pizza or Blaze Pizza would appeal more to,
Singles and dating couples or
yeah, like
newly dating.
someone in their 20s and 30s that doesn't have children and can afford to just, it's kind of like maybe the same people who eat at Chipotle. I'm not really sure. People that are young and don't have kids and can afford to spend $15 to go out to eat, that it wouldn't even hurt their pockets to eat there.
I think everybody eats at Chipotle, but I understand 100% what you're saying because I agree with you wholeheartedly. A family of 4, let's say mom, dad, 2 kids, when he adds up, unless the kids are just gotta have my pizza, which kids never have to have a particular pizza. They just want pizza. Most families are just, like you said, gonna go to Domino's instead of getting unlimited toppings. You get this one topping on this pizza, you get this one topping on this pizza. If you want both toppings, put both pieces together and eat. So I definitely agree with you on that. And it's crazy to me because less people are getting married, more people are dating. But I think in this Tinder dating app culture, less people are actually going on dates. And then, like you said, when it is time to go on a date, most guys are saying, okay, I got this chance for a date. Let me take you to my pizza. They're going to more established restaurant chains for that first venue. So I'm curious to really find out, or at least research as to why my pizza's customer base has dwindled so far.
Could it be that Americans are running out of money? Like, I don't know. Like, I have eaten there recently, but I am a single individual. I don't have kids. So I guess I can afford to eat there. But if I had a family, even if I had money, a lot of money, I don't think I want to spend $50, let's say, on individual pizzas. And then if you dine in, you're probably going to, buy 5 sodas. So, like, I don't want to spend, I mean, why would I want to spend 70, $80 for individual pizzas and sodas? And then you got to think about, what if you get salads too? It could be almost $100 to eat there. When Domino's is just a phone call away, you're actually going to get more pizza for your money. I mean, don't get me wrong, Mod Pizza is better. Like, I would think consider that better, but it costs more. So I think most people are going to go with what's the cheapest, what they can afford, like Domino's, even Little Caesars.
Yeah, I would argue against the Americans being out of money. And I think the problem we're having with immigration really just speaks to that. It's too many people coming to this country for us to really be acting like we have fiscal or financial problems. I just think, my pizza hasn't been able to keep up with the times. Like you said, they actually went up 40 cents, where truth be told, they needed to go down in their price point in order to attract more of a customer base. That's why I'm thinking it had to be ingredients more than America's ability to spend that was the destruction or the downfall of my pizza.
That was definitely a good take. So my next question would be just in general, doesn't have to do necessarily with Big Lots or Mod Pizza. Do you think that do you think that the typical average American is hurting for money?
Well, that's a kind of loaded question. I think when we say hurting for money, that means in need, such as can't pay my bills because I need money. I don't think the average American is hurting for money, but I do think the average American has been having to make some very contrasting choices for their quality of life in order to maintain that quality of life. So, most financial advisors are saying eat out less, conserve more, appreciate what you have. And in times of financial crisis in America, that's actually what we're good at doing. So I think that's more of the issue. I think it's just more Americans saying, hey, I'm going to cook at home. I'm going to eat at home. I'm going to do what I can to survive this period of financial turmoil. That way I can go back to being completely loose with the money once we make it through this light recession.
So for yourself, do you find yourself um being cautious how you spend your money?
100% not. I'm living my life carefree, full of butterflies and rainbows. But no, of course, I think as an adult, I think all adults budget. And even though we might have a discretionary fund, we almost always all go over. But in this climate that's in America, where the political turmoil, the judicial turmoil in my side of the world, I just think more Americans are being cautious and waiting to see what they can do with this money another day rather than falling into the pitfalls of price inflation and gouging, which most businesses are participating in right now.
So like earlier in the year, I think Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy. Dollar Tree that owns they own Family Dollar. They're close. I think they're gonna close like 1,000 Family Dollar locations. Um, and then there's reports that Walgreens is gonna close a lot of stores. So a lot of different companies are closing lots of locations. Like, what do you think? Why do you think that they are closing so many locations? Because I have actually noticed in the Phoenix metro that I've seen Walgreens locations that are now closed. I mean, recently, like had to be in the last 6 months. I've seen Walgreens, CVS. Now I'm not saying like every location's closing, but I am noticing a lot more empty buildings that were formerly Walgreens. I've noticed CVS. Um, there was a Blaze Pizza pretty close to my house that probably closed a year ago or so. Now, of course, we know that like a lot of, places open and close all the time. But when it's like Walgreens, CVS, like I've never seen that before. I'm just noticing that recently. Um, so like what do you think about that?
Well, I think Walmart set the blueprint. When Walmart started coming to communities, a lot of the smaller stores went out of business because they were unable to keep up with Walmart's price points. And unfortunately, drugstores, Walgreens, CVS, the same thing has befell them in regards to grocery stores. It used to be, I don't know if you're aware of this or you maybe might be familiar with this, but you had the grocery store plaza with a couple of little stores, and then you have the drugstore right on the corner. But what's happening is the drugstore, especially once they like, hey, we're no longer going to sell negative things for you, such as beer and cigarettes. Once drugstores remove that from their storefronts, I think that's when they lost the tide or the war with Kroger's and other grocery stores that have pharmacies inside of them. Because not only was the medication cheaper, but now they can just get more products from them stores than they can from them sometimes overly priced drugstore goods. So I think the reason we're seeing stores fail is because so many other stores have become multi-purpose. I mean, out here we even have Kroger grocery stores that have banks right inside them in the front. So I think Kroger and other, like Publix, those kind of grocery store chains have taken up the Walmart mantle. Not so much saying destroying small businesses, but offering enough that niche businesses like drugstores just can't compete.
So where do you see America, let's say in 10 years? Because I feel that once a company starts, it's like a chain. Like once a company starts closing stores, it's generally not like let's say for example, um, like Sears and Kmart. So then, when they were actually around, they'll close a certain number of stores this year, and then they're hoping that things are going to get better, but they don't, and then they end up closing more the next year, and then they keep closing the next 40 or 50 that didn't work, and then at some point they realize that they're going to go out of business. So like, where do you see the future? Like, what will America be like in 10 years? Do you think that every time you walk into a fast food restaurant you're going to have to use a kiosk? Like, I'm starting to see that in Phoenix. um Now, I have no idea how long ago kiosks started because I almost always go through the drive-through, but lately I have been trying to kind of dine in sometimes. So I've noticed maybe, let's say a month ago, I think I dined at Taco Bell and they wanted you to only order from the kiosk. And well, I saw someone ordering from the kiosk, and then I just went up to the counter, but you couldn't actually see a register. They kind of had like a sign in front of it, and then I just told the person like, can I still order like from you? Because I wanted to make some modifications to the food, and they were like, yeah. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's just being old school or maybe to people growing up right now that seems normal, but I do not want to order from a kiosk. I want to actually place an order with a real person. Um, I would think that especially most people who are kind of like, oh, I don't want ketchup, I don't want, mayo, I don't want this, I don't want that, or I want this well done, or I want, when you're gonna like try to modify your meal, like I don't really want to do it from a kiosk. And I also don't want to touch the screen either.
Yeah, I think what we're witnessing is a lingering effect of COVID or the pandemic. I think people just don't trust people, and businesses have used that as an excuse to accelerate the erasure of the minimum wage worker. So, like, in 10, 20 years, I still expect McDonald's to be there, but I don't expect a lot of these store chains and brands to be in existence anymore. So, and I definitely expect to see more kiosk workers, even though Walmart has shown charging a membership to use the U scan was a complete failure, or the self scan. So I think businesses are still trying to drive us towards uh, what we call repless, no agent or no person employed by the company taking your order. The order is only executed by humans in the back. I think companies want us to go towards there more and more, but it's shown that as a business practice is only effective in fast food.
I never heard about Walmart charging a membership to use the self scan. That sounds That does not sound like a good idea. Like, who would pay that?
And that's what a lot of people said, but because Walmart's trying not to close store, so last video I seen it was this long line, and the U scans was open, but Walmart, had the subscription service now to use the U scan in some areas, and people like, nah, we'd rather just wait. Y'all already making us scan and bag it ourselves. Now we gotta pay to do that. So definitely, I think as businesses push too far against the average American, the pushback they're going to feel fiscally, and that will curb some of these what I think is detrimental practices to the business.
So, how do you personally feel about different stores, like let's say a Walmart? I don't know what it's like in Atlanta, but I can only speak about what I've seen, like in, let's say, Arizona or Colorado. I have seen different store chains where there's only one actual lane open with a cashier, and then everyone else, okay, they have, some of the stores are kind of putting a lot of self checkouts. They're spending money to, like, I've seen this at Safeway where they've remodeled the store so that they could either take out checkout lanes, or to the side of the checkout lanes they have made their self checkouts way bigger than they were before. So there'll only be one cashier actually working, and then you everyone else is using the self checkout. But I personally don't like self checkout. I only like self checkout if I have a couple items and they can't be produce, because I hate like having to find the picture and then or punch in the code. I hate doing that. So like I want a human to scan my food and put it in the bag for me. Like, I do not like self checkout. I find it like, I actually think it takes longer to go depending on how much stuff you have and what you're scanning. I feel like it takes longer to use the self scan.
I 100% agree. And I only like to use the self scan when I have a few items. I follow the express lane rules. If I got more than 12 items, I'm not bagging this up myself. I want an agent to meet me at the register or cashier, ring my stuff up, bag it, place it back in my cart, and then I walk out to my car. So I do think some of these businesses with this self scan and kiosk are underestimating the laziness of the average American. Even if me doing it myself will make it easier and faster, that's not what I came here for. I came here to get what I want and watch other people do things for me.
I also have heard that some stores that were putting in a lot of self checkouts are actually going away from that because it's actually causing a lot of theft. And I haven't stolen myself from the self checkout, but I am sure that there are people who do that because, no one's really watching them. Or, it's probably hard for one person who's overseeing all the self checkout lanes to be able to see what each person's doing, So what do you think about that?
Let me express some of the technology behind some of these self scans. I don't know if people are noticing. One thing is a weighted where you put your groceries at is weighted. So if the weight is wrong, that's how they're trying to curb that. Now what we're seeing, especially from Walmart and other stores, is motion detection and video cameras right on the register. So if you move from right to left, but no weight registers in the bag, it immediately shows you not scanning the thing, and it calls an attendant and won't let you go forward. So I really think the self scan has caused a tremendous amount of theft because I'm not saying most people are bad people, but most crimes are crimes of opportunity. And what's a better opportunity to steal than to put the thief in charge of bringing up the products? So I 100% agree with you. I think the U-Scan has led a lot of companies trying to circumvent paying the employees to it costing them more because they didn't have an employee in that particular spot.
So again, so I asked you earlier if you felt that our Americans are out of money. So I gather that you're saying that they're not out of money.
Correct. I just think Americans are becoming more frugal in their spending. I think as the price of goods that Americans typically buy, television, game systems, groceries, all but groceries has went down. TVs are cheaper, entertainment is cheaper, electronics are cheaper overall. But the cost that's continuing to rise without fail is the cost of food. And I think Americans are just becoming more frugal, more at home chefs in an attempt to save money and not because there's a lack of money to be spent.
So you think that more people are just saying that more people are just cooking at home.
Affirmative, because I agree with you. I think a lot of Americans who love McDonald's walked in there and seen that $12 for the Big Mac and said, you know what? I'll cook at home unless it's a treat. And I think that's what's happening to a lot of these things that seem like staple in the everyday life of the American. They were just overactive users of treats. And as Americans tighten up our belts and try to be more proactive in saving and preparing for tomorrow, I think that's just what we're seeing. It's not because you got to look at the other industries that haven't went down. The hair industry hasn't went down. The clothing industry hasn't went down. You're hearing the fast food and smaller stores closing, but you're not hearing of malls closing across the country. So I think Americans are definitely still spending money. They're just more frugal and picky about the places they choose to spend the money.
So where do you think Americans are spending money? What industry or what sectors are Americans spending money at that you think are not that haven't faced any decline?
I think one of the places Americans are spending a lot more money is in the stock market. I think it's been a while since I've heard a dip to any, or a significant dip to the S&P 500 and other stocks. I think because of the social media climate, a lot more Americans are just traveling and saving their money to go other places and spending at McDonald's, which is weird, but it's what they're doing because overseas and out of the nation, McDonald's are showing signs of increase, as well as some of the content I'm observing. So I'm thinking it's just more emphasis on maybe fashion, starting your own business, and traveling that Americans are spending their money on, creating memories as opposed to eating their memories.
So you think I wonder what I wonder what traveling in 2024 looks like in comparison to other years. Um I don't know. I guess I'm not really sure about this because I don't know. Do the average people that you know, um, are they taking a lot of extravagant trips? And let's talk maybe more about like traveling outside of the country because being in Arizona, it's a lot cheaper to I mean, I could go to Vegas and drive there and get there in 4 hours. So, I mean, is that traveling? I mean, yeah, technically it is. But it's a lot more expensive to, book a flight that costs X amount of dollars, book a hotel or resort, and then go somewhere for 7 days, have to get a passport. Like, uh I would consider those type of trips more of a trip.
And, yeah, I'm aware of that. I think that's, I think when people think of travel in America, that's a lot what they think of leaving the country. But a lot of people discount how huge America is. I know out here it's constant. You'll see trips to Destin, Florida, to Orlando, Florida, because of the timeshare. Especially this time of year where the timeshares are offering the free 4 days, 5 nights. All you got to do is come to the seminar. So I'm seeing a lot of those trips. Again, I still think Americans are being frugal, but it's not because of lack of money, because we're seeing a lot of growth in the economy. I just think it's a perception. It's the way Americans are choosing to spend their money is mainly focused on value. So Americans don't have problems spending the money if they get the value for spending the money. So that's why you won't see a lot of people going maybe overseas for trip, because it's hard to get more value out of that. Once you get over there, you're over there. Whatever hotel you get, that's the hotel you're stuck with. Well, I know out here in the southeast, just a lot of traveling between Tennessee, New Orleans, and Florida. And those are, like I said, instead of a $5,000 trip outside the country, it's just a $2,000 trip to say New Orleans for Mardi Gras, or to South Beach for 3 or 4 days, and then you go back home. So I think the traveling is staying more localized to the nation, if that makes any sense to you.
Well, that would indicate to me that the person who would rather, not, okay, they may not rather, but they do the trip that is closer, that they might be doing that trip that is closer because they cannot afford to do the trip that takes them out of the country. Like
Yeah, I think
like
that's more fear. That's fear based.
like if I had the choice to go to Las Vegas, which is 4 hours drive, or 1 hour in the air, or go somewhere in the Caribbean, I would like to go to the Caribbean. I would, if those were my options, I'd rather go anywhere outside of the country, if I had, the option to do it. Not that I wouldn't go to Vegas, but, like, I don't know, I just would rather go outside of the country, like.
I think something you want to add into your computation with that is the fact that you've been out the country before. So when people have been out the country before, it's easier for them to think about trips outside the country and to find more outside the country exciting places to go. But the majority of Americans don't even leave their city, let alone their state. So for them, you could talk about the beauties of the Caribbean, how affordable it could be, but they know Vegas is right here, 4 hours away. And if everything goes crazy, I can just get on the bus and go home. And that fear of what are my options if things go bad outside the country, I think that's what keeps a lot of Americans in the country.
That's very sad because no matter where you go, um, even in the city that you live in now, a person doesn't know if you're an actual resident or if you're traveling. And I don't even know if it really matters. Like, something could happen to you where you live. It's something bad doesn't, okay, so something bad happening to you, it doesn't matter that you went to another country. It could happen at any point, at any time, anywhere.
I 100% agree, and that's why I said it's fear based. I think just a lot of people are afraid of the unknown. Just to put it simply and put, they're just afraid. They don't know. Nobody in their family has left the country, and they're just too afraid to be the first. I don't disagree with anything you said. I think, in fact, they say most crime and most car accidents happen within a small proximity to your house. But for some people, if you never experienced the breadth of the world, the actual, like, I'm here and then I traveled thousands of miles to here, that's an extremely difficult hurdle, I think, for an individual to overcome. If, again, if they're the first in their family to do it.
So have you been outside of the country, not counting Canada or Mexico?
Yes, I have, and I still say one of the places I plan to retire is in Germany and Europe. I've been to Incirlik, Turkey. I've been to several places. I really enjoyed my time in Europe and Ramstein and just all the places over there. I was traveling by train, and just getting to immerse yourself in another culture. I think it's one of the most beneficial things you can do for yourself as a human is to travel and to have a worldview that's not influenced just by, the news and the media, but actually getting out there and experiencing the world.
I definitely agree with that. And I guess the first time that you traveled outside of the country, did you have a fear of the unknown, like you said?
Oh, I most certainly did. I'm a military brat, so my first traveling out the country was as a child in the military. A lot of military men stay off base. What helped me overcome my fear, I think, was being young. And, youth is so innocent, meeting people who didn't speak my language but wanted to be friends. And then after a day with playing, they would sit down and try to help me and my brother to learn German. So I think just going and encountering another culture so young is why I was able to get over the fear, but I don't know exactly how I would express or get the average American to overcome that fear.
What do you think people are fearful of that have not traveled outside of their respective country?
Well, even though, because especially a lot of travelers are learning, hey, with Google, you can just say, I want to say this in Japanese and then just hit it and it'll talk Japanese to the person. But I think for the average American, it's that fear of communication. It's that I'm going to go somewhere and I can't talk to them and they can't talk to me. I think that's the impetus to a lot of their fear.
So you think it's a language barrier? It has nothing to do with whatever country. I don't know what country we're talking about, but you think it's language. It has nothing to do with this other country being maybe race or a different race than they are, or a different culture, maybe different religion, um different customs. Maybe this other country has, different music, different foods.
Yeah, I do because, especially from when my travel and some of the training I went through, a lot of people recognize in the world, even though we don't know where you're from in America, they can tell you're American when you go to these other cultures. And they're very hospitable, but the average American doesn't know that. So I think, because they're even talking about war torn travel, where it's like people are purposely going to the Middle East and places like Afghanistan and North Korea just to see it, just to see if what they're saying on the news is true. And a lot of them people are becoming injured and hurt. So I still think it's a little bit of fear mongering being done by the media that's really scaring the people. I think the language barrier is the first part. And then once the person overcomes that, it's still, I'm in another country. I don't know how to read the maps. I don't know what to do. And then like the States, going from Georgia to Alabama, you're still in the States. But if you go to Europe, you know, that hour drive will take you out of Germany and put you in a whole nother country, whole nother language, whole nother cultural aspect to it. So I think it's the fear of trying to overcome all those obstacles that keep most people rooted in their home country.
What would you say to, say you're in Atlanta, and I've been to Atlanta before, but I haven't been anywhere else in the state of Georgia. But I have read about towns in Georgia. I don't know where they're located, but rural areas of Georgia that might be sundown towns, or they may not be as welcoming to people of uh, certain races. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I've definitely read this online and about different states in the South. I've actually been warned. One time I was actually in Memphis, Tennessee. I was in a suburb, but I don't know what the name of the town of the suburb was. And I was checking into this hotel, and the girl that checked me in recently had moved there from Boston, and she was telling me horrible things about areas of rural Mississippi and advising me like to never go to these certain areas. So one could say that Memphis is definitely going to have a high percentage of black people, but outside in the rural areas, like you're, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is you're saying that when you travel to these other countries, there's a language barrier. The person's doesn't, might have a fear of the unknown and all this. But even in America, you could be in a big city where you feel comfortable and you see yourself represented, and but you might go an hour and a half outside of your city to places that have been previously known or still currently known to not be safe places for certain groups to travel to. So what do you think about that?
Well, first of all, what you're saying is not conjecture. I watch a lot of trucker content on YouTube, and some that a lot of black truckers talk about is the proliferation of sundown towns across America, and how certain dispatchers know not to send certain demographic of drivers to deliver in these areas. And then it falls to education, because again, a lot of people don't know this, but I don't know if you've seen a welcome to XYZ town sign. But if you see a welcome to XYZ town sign and it has a setting sun on the town sign, that's a sundown town. It's a lot of evidence to that. So I will agree. As safe as people think they are in their home country, it's just as wild and lawless as the rest of the world. The only difference is here we know dial 911. We know the language that the police is going to speak. I tell you what, there's nothing more terrifying than needing police assistance in a foreign country, and when you meet the police, they don't speak English. Only thing they can do is take you to the station and wait for an interpreter. So I don't think their fear is unfounded. I just don't think it's enough fear that would prevent me from traveling.
So do you think that, so my, I guess, analogy of people, not, I wasn't speaking of truck drivers, but my point was that you have people traveling for any reason, or maybe someone just wants to go on a drive. It doesn't really matter the reason why someone's driving where they're driving. But I would say, being from the West, like I've done a lot of road trips and with people, without people, and I've never had to even wonder, like, to myself, well, if I drive through this town in Colorado or Arizona or New Mexico, could something happen to me? Like I've never, like I don't know, that's never even crossed my mind because it's not how the Western US is. But since I'm not from the South, I guess I'm not saying that this is normal, but I guess in when you're in the South, I would imagine that this is something that people would think about before they just jump in the car. So like I don't know. What I'm saying is that if I drive to Las Vegas right now and I stop in a small town to get gas, I don't have to worry about if there's a racist town between here and Las Vegas, or if it doesn't really matter what direction I drive, I don't have to worry about this. So, what I'm saying is when you live in a southern state as a black person and you leave the city and you might be driving somewhere that might take you through a place like that, do you and let's say you need gas, are you going to get off at these places, or do you make sure that you have enough gas um to bypass those places and fill up in places where I guess it's safe?
I guess the only way I can explain, because I get what you're saying, And I just think, first of all, it's error in perception. Because the same way you don't have a fear in Nevada, but you might wonder if you should be fearful out here. I don't have a fear out here, but I know I would be definitely a little nervous and cautious driving on the West Coast. I think people from the South, first of all, you'll see a lot of Southern men who will say, we have no problem with the Confederate flag. Not that we don't know the history, but we know it as an identifier. So if it's a Confederate flag in your yard, Confederate flag stickers on your car, etc., then we know, okay, don't go here. If we riding past a gas station and we see, four pickup trucks lifted, we're just gonna keep going. I ain't gonna lie, every time I drive to New Orleans, I got one rule that I always follow. I know I don't stop for cash once I pass the Mississippi River. East of the Mississippi River, which is more on my side, which is known as the more black side, you're fine. But after I pass the Mississippi River, I won't stop in western Mississippi at all. At all. So I definitely think it's more knowledge based in the South. We just know the areas not to go, as well as how to identify people who from the dominant society who might not mean black people really any good. But I wouldn't know what to do if I once I got past Texas. That's the furthest I drove. Once I passed Texas, and really just the first half of Texas, Dallas, Corpus Christi, in that area. Once I passed that, I'm clueless as to how the rest of the world or the rest of America looks.
Well, I would say that although you haven't seen it, that's the side of America that I'm on, and you wouldn't even have to think about whatever stuff you just said about, the Mississippi River. You wouldn't even have to think about this stuff anymore. Like, I never think about it. I have only thought about it in relation to the southern US. That's it. I've never thought about this. I've been to 43 states, so I've never thought about it in New Hampshire or Maine, or I never thought about it in Montana or Washington or Oregon. I've only thought about this in relation to southern states.
Well, it depends on how you or what you view about Southern. I think I've been to about 12, 15 states, but mostly the South and the Midwest. And I can attest the Midwest is as racist, if not more racist than the South. But I only feel that way because of the fact that I think they just hide their racism better. But they are known as very racist places. The places I've frequented, but I just haven't been far enough to the liberal West yet.
What states are you considering Midwest? Like, what is Midwest?
Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. I want to say Western Connecticut, but some people say that's not the case. Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota. Some of the most
I'm
racist
gonna
people.
have to disagree with you. What people okay, so if you were to pull up a map of the United States, I don't consider okay, so the first states you said, Ohio, West Virginia, that area, I don't even consider that. How is that the Midwest? Okay, so I understand that there are people who refer to those states as Midwest. But if you were to draw a line like North and South in America, those states are practically almost on the East Coast, like almost by the ocean. They're about one state removed. Like, America is huge. Like, Arizona's in the West. I don't consider Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, or Indiana the Midwest. To me, that's like almost back east. Like, I don't know. I guess I just like visually, I just don't agree with that. Now, they might be racist, but I just don't agree that those are in the West. The
Well,
West,
the majority of my family is from Indiana, and they'll tell you that's the Midwest. And it's actually a quite compelling conversation because I think Indiana is where they draw the line. Everything east of Indiana, they consider East Coast, and everything west of Indiana, they consider the Midwest. So,
what I'm saying is North Dakota is nowhere near Ohio or Indiana or any of those states. I would consider like, okay, so I would consider North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, Iowa. I would consider those states to be like Midwest. They're like in the middle of the country, so I don't know how much more mid it can get. Like I don't know. I don't know what I would I don't know. Indiana and those states are above the South. But like I don't know. I just feel like visually looking at the map, I consider Iowa, Nebraska, North, South Dakota, Minnesota. That to me is more like the Midwest, and I don't believe that those states are racist. 'Cause I spent plenty of time in them, so I don't. I feel like once you get past Texas, that it's a different world, probably than what. Not a completely different world, but it's some of these issues that we're just talking about. You don't have to think about them when you're on the West.
Yeah, and I not to pass any judgment, but I think that's just a little bit of naivete. I think racism is just prolific and has it's as American as apple pie. And some of the most racist people I have known have been from Iowa and Montana and South Dakota. So that'd be the pushback I give you. But what I will say about the reason why Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky and those areas consider themselves Midwest, it's a cultural thing. They don't identify with the East Coast, with the New York, New Jersey, Maine. They don't identify with those areas, as well as, I don't know if you know, the Mason Dixon line is still what we consider the South. And a lot of people don't know the Mason Dixon line is literally, it runs parallel to the top of Tennessee down. It goes, the West Virginia, and it goes over the top of Arkansas. Arkansas is actually considered the South. A lot of people don't know that because it falls below the Mason Dixon.
No, I
But
know Arkansas is the South. I've
yeah,
been there.
yeah. See, a
Who
lot of
who wouldn't think that?
it
The
turns out
the
some people,
South is Texas and over.
yeah, but Texas don't claim the South. Only half of Texas claims the South. The rest of Texas claims the Midwest. And I would push back. I always considered Arizona and New Mexico to be part of the Midwest, and that the actual West didn't start to Utah and Nevada and California.
I think you need to look at a map because Arizona is one state removed from the ocean. So I think you may not even know where Arizona is. It's the ocean,
I thought it went California.
then
Uh,
Arizona. You don't
I
know what
thought
you're talking about. How
I
could a
thought
state
Nevada was connected to is next to California.
It is, but only in the How about you go to Google and go look at a map of the United States? So when I'm explaining to you that I'm aware that people say that, Chicago and these places are Midwest, but I'm saying they got to come up with a new term for that region because like when you look at the map of the US, like it's not those states are not even in the West. The
What
West
what
is
you're saying?
the
You gotta.
West I understand, but listen, listen. The West is Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, California, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Wyoming. That's the West. The West Coast is California, Oregon, and Washington. And then the West would be like, Montana, Idaho, Arizona, Colorado. That's the West. New
So you
Mexico.
consider Colorado to be the West and not Midwest too?
No, Colorado is the West. I Colorado touches Arizona. Like, how could it be Midwest? I would consider Midwest, like I said, to be like South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri. I don't know. Missouri is. I don't know if I've had this discussion with people many times if Oklahoma and Missouri are the Midwest or if they're the South. And some people say that I've had different answers. So
Yeah, I think it's all about what the people there consider themselves, maybe more than what we might think. Because I know a lot of the places that you were saying are West, they do consider themselves Midwest country states in America. And I don't think if you tell them, hey, y'all are not far enough west to be considered Midwest, they will ask, so what? We're just mid America. And that'd be the pushback they give you, because again, it's culture. I think Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, uh, Mizzou, North Dakota, all of them have that Midwest farming culture. So I think
yeah,
that
yeah, farming culture, but somebody in North Dakota is not going to be the same as somebody in Kentucky. You're talking like 10 states away. Like geographically, they're nowhere near each other. And I would, okay, so stereotyping, the stereotypes about the area that you're speaking of, wouldn't that be considered Appalachia? Like this is considered a very poor area of America. And North Dakota and South Dakota and Minnesota are nowhere near those states that you just said.
Look again. I don't think it's the proximity to the state. I think it's the proximity to the culture, and what unifies the Midwest is a belief in that farming culture.
I'm really shocked that you thought that Arizona was in the Midwest. Like you're crazy if you
I
actually
promise
believe
you.
that. Like have you
I thought
seen
it
a
went
map?
Texas. I thought it went Texas, New Mexico, Arizona.
Then
Then
California.
I thought Nevada was in between Arizona and California.
How about you go look at a map? See
How
you're
about I don't? Because we're having a conversation, but I'll take your word for it. But
wait,
again,
there's nothing to take. How do you don't think I know where I live and the states
I
that are
do.
around me?
That's why I said I'll take your word for it. I mean, I don't know exactly what more you're expecting of me.
That's crazy. That is really crazy. Arizona's in the Midwest. Okay.
I promise you, they consider the Midwest. I mean,
No, they are not. Maybe in your head. No, they are not. That's crazy.
but
How could
you
Arizona
said
okay.
yourself, other people you have talked to have told you Chicago, Illinois,
No,
and
I'm aware. No, no, no.
they have
I
told you this was the Midwest. It
no,
seems like
no, no,
you're
no,
the
no.
only one who think it's not the Midwest.
Because okay, so think about it like this. Okay. If you really looked, what I'm saying is if you go and look at a map, Chicago's not even in the middle of the country. Okay, if you just took look at the United States and you drew a line down the middle, just like you're telling me about the Mason-Dixon line, right? Like Arizona's below the Mason-Dixon line, but we're not a part of the South, we're in the West. But what I'm saying is, if you were to draw a line like down the middle of America, I believe it would be between North Dakota and Minnesota, then you would go all the way down uh Illinois and Indiana are on the other side, and those other states you're mentioning like Kentucky and West Virginia, you're like one state removed from the ocean. How is that Midwest? What I'm trying to say is like I would consider Midwest, like when I'm thinking of the term Midwest, so that would mean that you're more like on the western side or like middle. Like I understand. I think we're like talking about two different things. Like you're saying, I understand people say, "Oh, I'm from the Midwest," so that's gonna mean like Indiana or blah blah blah. But what I'm saying is that geographically, it's nowhere near the West. It's not even in the middle of the country. Because
Yeah, I think.
if you're gonna say that those states are Midwest, then almost the whole country is like in the West, but they're not.
Yeah,
Like
saying a lot of states consider themselves Midwest because of the culture. You also got to understand Midwest, the South. Those are not geographical terms. Those are cultural terms that have geographical reference in America. But it doesn't necessarily mean just because you could, like Arkansas, it's nowhere near the Gulf of Mexico. It's two states in between them and the bottom of the map, but yet they're still considered South. So it's not so much about your geographical location on this imaginary XY axis in America. It's more about the cultural significance of those areas and that terminology to the people.
okay, I just think they need to pick a new name for Appalachia. Like basically. Um but Arizona is definitely not in the Midwest and we're definitely not in the South. Well, geographically, I guess there's two terms for Arizona. You could say Southwest because we always say that we're in the Southwest, or you could say we're Southwest, we're a mountain state, or you could just say we're in the West. I would say that those are the acceptable terms for Arizona.
And that might be what it is, because you got to remember the Appalachia, as you referred, is actually a mountain range known as the Appalachian Mountains. And it's I want to say, one of the biggest mountain ranges in America, because it literally goes from New York all the way down to Georgia. And if you really look at the map, it would seem All the country or all the states to the left of the Appalachian Mountains is who consider themselves Midwest.
Hmm. Well, maybe do you think that this term was created Midwest when the country was more, I guess, the first settlers came into the South and there probably wasn't very many people out west, so maybe way back then, hundreds of years ago, that might have been like Midwest. But now, hundreds of years later, as the country has, as more people have settled in the West, like I guess what I'm saying is it an outdated term now?
I wouldn't think it is simply because I think the original, a lot of people who were calling themselves Midwest is because that was the land purchased in the Louisiana Purchase. So if you think about the Louisiana Purchase, it goes from the edge of Mississippi all the way up to Canada. And I think as far over as Montana. I think Montana was like the furthest that was included in the Louisiana Purchase. So that's why it might be outdated, but I still think those areas, especially because of the farming culture, they still share and have so much in common. It's going to be too hard to remove that Midwest term.
Okay, well, I definitely want to say that I definitely enjoyed this conversation. We definitely gotten a little off the subject and it was definitely a really good live. I thank you for coming on and sharing your viewpoints tonight. And to anyone watching or who's watching it live or might be watching this at another time, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And again, thanks OG for coming on the live tonight. Is there anything that you would like to say?
As always, it has been my pleasure to conversate with the amazing Kelly. I mean, nonstop great content. I'm subscribed. I like every video. If you're not subscribed, you are really missing out on some great content. I really want to tell you, thank you for having me up here and listening to me. You are just so great, Kelly.
Thank you very much. And so I'm going to end the live here. So have a great night and we will speak again.